There we go. All right. Already meeting.
We have anybody on?
Mr. Markey. I placed a record.
Okay. Okey-dokey, so we'll call this together at whatever time it is here.
9:41.
Additions to the agenda?
And
Okay, motion to approve the agenda. I'll make that motion for all.
Amended.
Yes. Public hearing, there's nothing. We all in favor? Yeah. Minutes. Regular. I think I did that a couple of things online.
the package with the in-camera discussion, but I'm going to discuss it first. So okay, but yeah.
Uh, 8.1, so halfway down the point, swimming access is beach number 4.
Oh,
Not 5.
That's 4 to the 5.
Yeah.
beach access more.
Yeah. And just it's just a comment in 11 that when we came out, we accepted a 4% increase for
Or set the CPI index that or whatever.
at 4 mill rate at 4, so it's make sure that everybody was aware.
Yeah.
Adopted.
Yeah.
Percent increase based on the CPI index.
Rather spread out around here.
Oh.
So has it started? Oh, they're all just sitting.
Have people on Zoom not muted, so I just muted them.
Okay, so would someone like to move the minutes?
Yeah.
Eddie, all in favor? Yeah. Great. Delegation. Business, previous council, so the county road sharing agreement. So it was last Wednesday at the county council meeting. They agreed to the document. Sorry, today.
What's has to be left done on that lawn to get this
Just
finished?
sign it. And if we gotta drive it to town today,
I'll drive it to town, go, I have to go to town, I have to. We're. Put the
Yeah,
batteries in
you've
town.
got to take 2 copies and sign them, stamp them and drop
Do you
them
have
off
to
to them.
seal,
We can do it afterwards, but we can see the contract, right? So-
yeah, okay.
I can get down because I gotta go to Canadian Tire, so.
Okay, so this will be done today.
Yeah, I think it's, I think it's very important that the county did it unanimously, so I think that was I'm really happy about that.
We,
So do we need to make a motion vote on it, or we to
You will,
in camera now?
you can, if you want to discuss it in camera, I put it in camera in case you guys do have any discussions in camera you want to have. But you can, if you're okay with it is the way it is, because we've been through this with the lawyer and you've read it and everything and the county's approved it. If you just want to pass it as is, then let's pass it unanimously and move on.
I think we've,
so do we,
That's why I put it in both in
Yeah,
case you guys.
I think we've
Come to the conclusion.
gone over it enough times and we were happy with, I'm happy with the document.
I agree, yeah.
We just need them.
We're done with
by.
So I would,
just hang on a minute. So do you have a copy?
Yeah, it's right before this. A little bit further.
take a quick look at it just to make sure it's happy.
That's it right there. Think should be, I attached it to the back of your agenda here. There it is right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it should be the back section.
There's just that one piece on
I
this
just want to make sure that we're piece. Proud of that. Supposed to have,
that they were gonna.
that they were gonna let us know.
Well, the last one I got from Suzanne. So I mean. Approve it and then look at, find the last one, the county, this is the one like she said.
We made a slight change on it, about that they were gonna let us know about spot ground. We were going to approve spot.
Yes, okay, so then this is not the last one.
This is not the last copy.
Okay, well, we can still approve the last version
Yeah,
and find the last
Yeah,
one.
the last copy had
What date was that? Cause this is the last one I had. So
the day that Lauren was talking to Reeve or whatever over there.
Yvette and Andrew, yeah.
Yeah, so we had just approved that they had agreed that they would phone us and we would make approval that we would approve any spot gravity before they did it, or we would approve any costs of spot gravity before
Okay.
they did it.
So if we can find that, we don't have extra.
So that's the copy that we need to do that.
So that's the one that the county will have. Maybe you might have to have.
Oh, no, I can get the one from Suzanne. I'll just get her to send it to us. We could sign it at the office and then deliver it.
Well, I won't have that, Suzanne doesn't have them changes on. County does.
Okay, then they didn't send it back to me then, so that's why I've got the last one.
Right.
Suzanne said,
To email it,
yes,
yeah. then we can-
so we approve it as unanimously adopted by the county, and then we'll sign it, deliver it back. So as far as this, we'll pass this with the change of spot gravel changes as adopted by the county unanimously, whatever when was their meeting,
Last Wednesday.
so that would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, adopted by the county on May 10th.
Yeah. I have that.
Okay,
Who's giving that, Bob?
Who's doing the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
all in favor?
Yeah, okay.
So we'll.
I'm just,
Copy of it.
it comes back the way it was discussed, that's all. So I'll have to look.
Okay,
There was another item on there, and it was the part that they didn't want was you have to report everything that goes on. The roads would have to be reported to the village. Well, we just took that
yeah,
paragraph out.
so we still
Mhm.
all those, I'll follow up on those.
Okay,
Okay, so all in favor,
with
yeah?
the two changes
Yes.
as presented by, as by the county still.
Okay, so the stellar waste management.
Yes.
You've
The
gone,
next one I sent you guys already was the Stettler Waste Management Authority's increase in requisition. And basically I had included in order to include the increase in this price, I had to reduce a few items in the budget. And right now, we don't have a superintendent or a supervisor of maintenance and highway, so, or transportation, so I had to reduce that budget slightly in order to incorporate this. That's how I was able to balance it in the budget. And right now. Person. We can find someone more permanent for part-time for the winter. Basically, on a quarterly basis, and I'm just trying.
28,000 a year.
Yeah,
so
so we went from 16 and changed to 28,000.
yeah, 16,500 about
Yeah.
there in 22. And now it's 8,000. Equation that came out of, that was sent to us.
Yeah,
Oh, I gotta carry Willoughby to confirm some stuff.
okay,
So, Terry said that we have 306 lots developed with some development on them.
mhm,
And the occupied properties for government. The occupied ones out of our profile, our municipal profile
mhm.
online, and then the permanent population, they have 174. But the government with that, when they do that shadow with the assessment or with the equalized assessment, it's not, is that?
The equalized assessment is the provincial equalized assessment based on.
But they changed the population from 120 to 133, and now it's 135.
See, I don't know how they're doing that,
It's on our, it's.
Yeah.
On our
because
site.
there's only. Census and the provincial
Right.
census, so they're not supposed to change the numbers after that, because they don't really know. Unless they interview whether they're permanently occupied or not,
So
so.
I don't know where they got 104 population, but the one,
It's the same with Roshan, we went through this whole discussion, you guys have to get together. And have a meeting, council to council, and then take that back to the. What's fair, because they're 6 months. And 6 months without, and even the. Population for the season is too many months, be 4 months at max. At whatever other population, but they should be determining any population other than census until we get a new census. So there will be another census coming, but they can't arbitrarily all around and coming up with that number. There's the digit.
Well, the 170. The census in 2016, it was 120,
Yes,
but then the Alberta government also this new population, and it's on their municipal affairs or whatever,
yeah,
because I
I
thought,
don't know how they came up with the SIP report. Financial information, and we also do statistical information return. Number of us, like I never put anything other than what the provincial census or the federal. I'm not sure how it would have changed or because Lori's been filing for us the last 2 years and she never made any changes on that I'm aware of. So
well, we'll certainly have to talk to them. So I'm just I did a rough calculation on what it should be if it's based on the 135 instead of the 120. And it saves us about, it goes to 25,371. So $3,000 savings if
the months,
and
so
the months are just
balloon population, seasonal population goes up for 4 months instead of 6 months, because they've got a distance going up for 6 months, which does.
Then you're
Well, you guys need to have a meeting with them, because I mean, theirs didn't go up as drastically, willing to acquiesce, but you guys need to get together and approach.
because I think if we're gonna have any change, we should send in like to their next meeting, I think even 17th or something like that.
I think they just sent invitations out for the next meeting.
No, I never got one.
I think they're every 2 weeks, aren't they? Just got their invitation.
Waste management authority.
Ed didn't get notification.
You should have got notification,
I never got one. I have no idea what's going on, and I mean, I've been there once.
because I've called the lady and I've also sent her an email and.
I think we want to clear this up, that we should be going in, you should be representing us and going in as a delegation to get this straightened out, because you guys are more knowledgeable on this than I am.
Well, we've got to present it to to Andrew, and who else is running, doing the management.
You bet.
Yeah, so we got to present the case to them and get them to adjust their calculation and their formulas, and then it'll come down automatically, but if they're gonna stick with this, it's not
Oh, they're gonna
represented.
stick with this, we might as well fix more options. Let's take our garbage to that shop,
Yeah, I don't know, because then you're looking at garbage trucks.
might be cheaper than this.
I don't know. 28,000 is not very much money compared to actually
Yeah,
leasing a truck.
like you say, just investigate the best option.
Yeah,
So they never it's never sort of based on how many times the truck has to come out or things like
it's
that.
roughly based on that, but they do, because there are so many different communities coming in and. Like Donalda has a full-time population of X and they use it so many times, and there's so many pickups. And so they know the volumes, they have volume calculations for every single community.
Right,
So that's really what it should be based on, actual use volumes.
Yeah.
But then our volumes are impacted by people coming to Roshan. Because we only have 26 permanent residents in the winter, but the garbage fills up,
those county people are coming.
Absolutely.
And filling the dumpsters.
Yeah, the county people will come here too.
Yeah, because all Roshan Sands Heights as well as Kathy Hancock's subdivision up there.
And I think that's where we
That's
have
all.
our garbage that don't belong here.
It won't be as big an impact here.
Those are no dumpsters over here, like Pelican View Estates and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So we've got 5 dumpsters there, and you've got how many dumpsters here? 6? 6. So, and ours fill up, Roshan's fills up almost as fast as yours does. How long fill up, like White Sands. Then,
So where's the garbage coming from? Who knows?
well, a balloon of users that are coming
Yeah.
in, so it could be from you, but I mean, it's easy to see line increases
Yeah.
because the drivers come. So they should give us our stats, and you know, we should be paying based on our stats plus a minimum rate. And the minimum rate shouldn't be 6 months a year, it should only be 4 months a year at that rate, and then the rest of the year should be at a lesser rate based on their volumes. And I don't mind paying those percentages, but if they're just arbitrarily taking population numbers that aren't true or aren't reflected because somehow they were put on the statistical information return, they're not right, they can use census from that's it. And all the trying to population is all the significantly bigger than Big Valley. This is the snowbirders, and residents is lower, like,
But Big Valley wouldn't have the same number of county people close by. Coming and using our.
Oh, yeah.
tools and stuff like, you know,
Yeah, they do.
Do they?
Oh, yeah, they got, there's surrounding farms all the way around that dump site. Like it's, yeah, they use it.
So do they? Okay.
and we also have some residents that dump everything in our bins, and they shouldn't be, certain items, they should be taken to the dump.
Yeah, well, there's always that. That's always an issue. Right?
Because it's free for
Yeah.
them, if, you know, and it's free for county residents to take bigger items, but sometimes we get people throwing in lawn chairs and other things in our dumpster that. Mattresses, mattresses and huge carpets and,
You get something like that, big piece of pipe or something that.
Well, like the problem here is we're the only one in the area that's not gated or controlled. Every
Oh,
other dump site.
Roswell.
Yeah.
yeah, but they did have a camera on it, and unfortunately, they. Took pictures of an individual dumping mattresses or carpets or something, and then they posted it online on Facebook. And exposed the county residents of the community over FOIP issues, freedom of information. Is then the village had to take down the camera and not have it. Camera on, but it's only available for the RCMP or one person.
So our recourse here is to try to get the numbers down to where
We've got to change the formula, the structure of the formula. If we reduce. And price, if we reduce the from 6 months a year to 4 months a year for the balloon population or the seasonal population, then that'll also reduce the numbers. But we need our stats. They have to be able to give us our stats, because you're paying into this, you should know what your stats are, right?
Yeah, and I don't know about this 174 population.
I don't know where that came from. I'll call municipal affairs and find out where that came from. If it came from a statistical report, then I need to know where it came from. Because we didn't do a municipal census, so other than the Alberta government census, they can't be pulling it from. Yes, we did have 6, 7 new developments over the last 2 years, but none of those, well, that I'm aware of, are permanent population changes. So I'm not sure where they got those numbers from. I can tell you. But that's the biggest thing, is that formula has to change. Be better represented.
So what I'll do is I'll dig up that 135 now. I'll dig up that and take a screenshot of it and send it to you, so where that came from.
Yeah.
How they come across that, I have
No.
how the government does it.
Maybe down the Summer Village. Across from, and the next community up or below might be the 174, and we're the 135. So maybe that's where they pulled it off, because there is a statistical
Population.
sheet for the
Yeah.
Summer Villages. for population. So
Okay.
anyways, so
and make sure.
my recommendation is for you guys to have a meeting with Roche and Sands to discuss a number of issues that are, you know, you guys, the road study, the new subdivision development that's gonna be proposed or development permit. And you guys need to discuss the landfill issues, Shirley McClellan, anything else you guys need to discuss together and sort of get on the same page together, because
Yeah, well, one formula is for both villages and.
the impact is much lower on them than it is on you guys.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get a meeting set up.
Okay, so what days are you thinking is the council, their council's agreed to whatever days you. Sooner the better, I guess. So you wanna next Tuesday or next
I'm-
Wednesday?
I'm out of here.
You're going again? Where are you going, Hawaii again?
No,
Houston. We go just before I go to Hawaii.
Oh, I know.
maybe not, because WestJet.
Okay, so, yeah,
Me too.
pilots all got locked up or went on strike. What day?
Well, I can always Zoom. But,
Yeah, it'd be better if you guys were face to face.
yeah, but I'm gone for 2 weeks.
When do you leave?
I want to go on a holiday for 2 weeks. I'll go with you. Are you going to Houston or?
Yeah.
Mexico?
No, Houston.
Any place warm, I know.
Well, unless I stay home, I'll get shot, but.
I don't know, that's. As long. I think Jay might have. Jay's working on the. Jay Fire, so.
Okay, well, then it doesn't, no, not Tuesday, that's.
Because Tuesday is when we're gonna try to get the tax notices out.
Wednesday, like Zoom.
Next week.
This is no way we're gonna get them all printed in
Afternoon.
one day.
Or, yeah, it's yeah, I could do Wednesday after.
How about Thursday then?
Thursday, free.
Yeah. So Thursday, what's Thursday?
Thursday's the 25th,
Okay,
and I'm just more room for you guys.
they work during the day, all three of them, so they. Were evening meeting. Possible.
Or late out. Late afternoon.
Late afternoon. Late afternoon, yeah,
Like 3.
4, 3,
3.
I have no idea what that schedule is. It's. For LV, I might be.
Then your talking points, so your counselors can take over for you.
Well, let's tentatively,
well, we've got a lot of common issues.
let's talk. We'll figure it out. Okay,
So when are you gonna do it? Thursday?
Thursday, the 25th. 3 or 4-ish.
Shit, I'm sure.
Well, at least Bob's not in the Winnipeg, so
yeah, exactly.
all of you guys are gone.
Okay, Roshan and White Sands.
So
And
I'll just say moved by counselor to have a tentative meeting with the Summer Village Sands on May 25th, 2023.
Yeah, and they may change the date to Wednesday or
Yeah.
whatever, depending. Yeah, so
frame,
Probably later.
time,
well, this it's 3 o'clock. And then we'll see what Ocean Sands Council comes back with.
Well, if they want the evening, that's fine too,
Okay.
with me anyway.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So tentatively 3 p.m. level.
Okay. We can move to the next item.
Next item. Yeah.
Financial, you wanna take us through there? Amy?
So this is the. Just the monthly budget report. As you can see, our budget, our actual, and we haven't collected a ton in. General fees, we've taxes and penalties, we have a little bit, and we should have other tax revenues in here. I don't know why that's not showing up.
Is there?
Like our
We have a monthly payments, don't we?
monthly payment, our tips should show up in here. So maybe we just have to talk to Lori about getting the tips payment volume put into the tax revenue volume. It's fine, it should. On the just have to recognize until just have to figure out how the tips gets recognized each month. It's there, we get the revenues, but
Yeah, we get about $19,000 a month.
yeah. So as of today, we should have 5 payments. Okay, so we should have $100,000 in payments in there.
Okay.
So on the expense side, we've got middle and council legislative general admin is at 17%. Is 18 right now, and that's mainly due to the wages that were paid out. And thing, culture is listed as 19. to figure
Culture, like your hall, your like the multiplex stuff.
out that the
And
light. It's gotta be capitalized, they gotta be priced capital items. Okay.
Those, the culture could be capital items.
Yeah, well, we did the
lights are
the
about
lights
15.
for both sides.
Yeah.
So they're over $5,000, so they get capitalized and taken out of operations. So they get put on the other side of the ledger.
And grant money for.
The grant money will, when it comes in, so. So we're expecting 50%. So that's where. So the next item is our capital expense. The culture building. That's why, because she has a code. So we'll have to set up a different code. I think it's, what is, it's 74. So we'll have to set up a 674 code to capitalize that. That's probably why it didn't get capitalized. Because Lori has to set up a code to capitalize the purchase. So other than that, we've made the well, I've to the case is willing to take back that item and give it credit towards another purchase item. It's the so never used it. It just he agreed to cap to mower that we ordered last year. It's finally came in. Or as well, and Lori was in MSI Capital, so 297,000 that we had on file. So, and that'll show up in your next expenditure. Okay. So other than that, nothing else is that because we haven't got our
For the what?
pardon me?
The grant money for.
For any of those yet. We usually get a provincial grant for MSI capital and or notification of that, and we get MSI operating, and then we get common services program, which is our student wage. And we also get a provincial, we don't get the transportation grant, but we get the Parks and Rec grant, which we get provincial and federal money for the summer student job program. But these grants are mainly for capital, but we haven't received the checks from them yet because their fiscal year started on April 1st, so they haven't been cutting the checks. So we should get the Canada Community Building Fund. We usually get an amount from them, and then that is going towards the tennis courts. Because that was one of the projects that never got. We get some other grants. So we haven't received it yet.
the tennis courts were about 30,000.
Yeah, I did put them in our budget again. I think there's 20 per court. That's the same as roads, 20 per court. So if it's 30, then it's slightly more. So the next item, is there any questions on that? So we haven't received any of the money, so. And then the next one is this Somerville check listing, so what we spent so far. To date.
That Van Electric, was that just the final payment? That's 1,700.
For which,
Oh, maybe when he did the AED
that would make more sense, because
and then the light outs.
he did some wire. And he did some, I know it's some remediary wiring, but this is his final light bill.
you just had how lights on it, so
Okay.
you
So
don't know.
we'll check it's coded, but I'm pretty sure that's the final payment for the lights. I know he also did some wiring at the office, the Public Works, and he wiring at the pole because we had some issues. And then I'm not sure if he did wiring to the Bob Depot and I think we just put up a temporary light at the give one, take one shed or whatever we call it. Okay. Our near position.
Correct.
Okay. So you can approve those. If you need a
That's it.
motion to approve.
Yeah, I have motion for, so I need to get something for.
Okay,
I'll make that motion to.
Okay.
all in favor? So,
Okay, so these are the notes from all of our previous discussions, and so I've highlighted the items that have shown significant increases for the previous years. So we're in actually the second, third year of the policing requisition program, so it increased from $6,675 to $12,245 this year, and this is the second last year increases, and that's the provincial wide based on equalized assessment. To me, that's another formula that summer villages as a whole should go after, because yes, there is an increase May 15th to September 15th for policing for summer villages, there's lots of call outs, not necessarily ours, but for things, and during the rest of the year, there's very little policing activity. Occasionally, there's some people that break into buildings in the winter and shouldn't necessarily by equalized assessment, it should be by equalized assessment plus another formula. Because there, any that's under a population of 5,000 doesn't have to pay for it's based have a
What's it go up to next year?
I'm not sure what the formula is. Up at least. My guess is it's gonna be closer to $1,500 minimum. It's probably gonna be higher, because they don't give the breakdown until near the end of the year. They give us a sheet, so. Our final target is $20,000 that we're gonna hit. So
Pretty close.
it's pretty close to 20, right? So next year we could be dollars or $4,000.
So eventually, yeah, get and then that goes.
Formula. Because it was a 5-year agreement. Shaped with the feds for the RCMP services, and they may have a provincial police that I don't know what's going to happen. All we know is we have a 5-year program in place, and there's not much flexibility for us, but
we didn't get hit up for this back pay thing,
No.
right?
Because we were small in population. I think the cutoff was 5,000. 5,000.
Right.
And that was huge because the retroactive payment.
Yeah, for some communities, it was billions of dollars, right?
yeah, and relatively, like they will enforce our bylaws if for things like and anything that's related to highway traffic act. If we file a complaint, they'll enforce that. They will our fire bylaws. They will enforce our bylaws around and around fireworks and stuff like that. But for we still have to put a little bit of money into program a bylaw off law, so that we can have the authority to do it and then contract it out to somebody. And right now, I don't think we. Is that a red deer? Okay, so those that I
like. Lots every time they come out, right?
whatever the flat rate is plus mileage, so it's probably close to $1,000 for every time they come out. So
Keep that to.
we send a lot of letters for bylaw enforcement or enforcement.
Mhm.
So I don't know, the as far as the highlights, we had at the end of the year, we had $1,887,926 in our bank account. Some of that, 266,300 was grant fund. And to offset future taxes, and so. I know, so that's a highlight. And as far as the assessment, as far as the growth areas, non-payment of taxes, we reduced the non-payment of taxes to 1,057, down from 1,200 reduction in taxes outstanding. And then we had 19 development permits in 2022 assessment growth was roughly $2.3 million, which helped. Had to assess, so everybody's assessment was, so we ended up almost $5 in overall assessment growth for the community, which then charts, growth chart, so and new developments, and we keep encouraging all lots and with new, and also getting people off RVs and trailers into permanent residence will continue with the growth. Having a negotiation with the developer and creating in new lots will help our assessment growth. The moment they're subdivided, they become taxable or accessible. So that'll help us as the new developer on board. As far as residential taxes go, basically, there's been a slight increase of 4% as council had. So that's in the budget. I determine the municipal breakdown tax revenue comes from and where the money's going. Residential tax, the county road tax, it's now, we're calling it a county road flat tax, and then residential non-linear, our minimum tax. So the assessed value, so we do have 7 properties that are still paying minimum tax, so that's where the tax money is coming from. 72% is coming from the residents. The tax collection breakdown where the money 7% is going to seniors requisition and 38% is going to the school. And there's going to be a slight difference in the number, so I can up the sheet, but that's what's budgeted so right now. And the mill rates calculation are listed for each year in the next chart. And then the following chart is we don't have franchise fees, but it's in theory, we don't have a special tax. We've got a flat rate levy for the county road allowance, and so I've attached that to the mill rate to show I can adjust this for council for presentation to the public, so that when you do a newsletter, they can change that. But I mean, basically, it's good. And the provincial education requisition has climbed, you know, not significant, it's still gone up. Cost of living, we don't have control of that. Housing requisition has gone up very slightly. So it went up an extra $900, or not quite $900, $800 this year. We don't have. Provincial police, as we've already mentioned, has gone up. So it went up from the first 6,800, and this last year was 8,900, and now it's gone up to 12,025. We've applied for annual Canada Summer Student Grants. Hopefully we'll get 3 grants to offset the wages of 3 students. We had one office clerk last year, and this year the office clerk has moved over to Roshan, so she's not gonna be on our staff, but she's gonna be on Roshan Park staff. And we don't have either municipal park maintenance supervisor this year. We just have 2 summer students. So if we offset the wages, if we can find someone, it'd be great. If we find someone local who's willing to work part-time, we don't need a full-time year-round. And keep costs down. We spending the money. If we were to hire 3 summer students and get 50% of the money back, then hiring 1 person for the summer. So like, but summer students are starting on May 1st, and so they seem to be doing a good job of keeping up with maintenance and cleaning things up. But we do need someone to supervise and look after projects and things like that.
Right, and I did get a phone call back and that he's not interested.
Anyways, so that
Some students, we apply for the grants and then we
we apply.
find out about the money after the fact sort of thing, like.
Yeah, we apply every year, and we generally get some every year, so
This is your guys' second year.
this is the 2nd year, so.
So we just apply and get what we budget for it and
Yeah.
whatever we get back from the government is a bonus, that's the key, and
Yeah.
kind of how we look at it.
It also, it's
It's set, yeah, and you have to apply in what, February or something?
Yeah.
No, usually-
Earlier than that, but maybe.
usually we apply for all Canada grants in December and November, and then at the end of January, that's the cutoff.
Yeah.
So we try to get all our grants in, applications in before then. And they generally cover 50% of the wage of the summer student,
For one summer student,
each student.
Each student.
or every student, really.
Yeah, so if we hire a student from July 1st to August 30th, then that summer student would be a high school student at minimum. University students, and they're here. August, most of them leave in the middle of August, we apply and get that money, and generally it's 50% of the wages. It works out to our benefit. I have them, and we have 1 returning summer student from last year, and local farm girl really to do, or just needs a little bit of guidance from people who history. But I would like to have someone more permanent, but it's just not,
Well,
as long as we can keep up, right? And
it'll work.
we have
I think they've
another,
been doing a great job.
I think
Really
they are
good
too.
job.
Well, we give them a fairly extensive list of activities to do
Yeah.
daily, weekly, and projects, so,
But they're really independent
yes.
workers and
And they work good together. Garbage, everything. They do their community drive around checks like we've asked them to do, so that's all good.
I think the drive around the village looks pretty good. It's great, I think.
One yet, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, so they'll be busy, I mean. And if we can't find somebody in a sort of quasi supervisory role, somebody who's more mature, maybe we'll look at hiring another substitute. Even though you won't get the money from the feds, we'll just try to get through. And try to find somebody who's part-time for the winter, just.
Just have to keep tabs on their workload, and we don't want to overdo them.
yeah, they're doing like. So,
Roshan needs somebody who's on call too, so.
yeah. So what happened with like yesterday when they were on one to do some eating for a while, an hour or two, and then they trade off. Because riding on that motor is a Bearcat. There's a seat doesn't tilt, like you're going down the boat launch road, all that steep ditches there. It's hard on you. So they're really smart that way.
Yeah. That's good, it's positive there.
And if anybody knows, there are some students, high school students that come here with their family, and we had one that applied. So if we can't find any July 1st, they pick up another high school student. Month and a half to help keep up with grass cutting and weed whipping and other things, garbage and whatever.
I think I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We'll see,
We need
we'll
to
keep,
know.
if any of you know that work for the summer, let us know. Put forward names. Okay. So the expense, I went back through the budget and made some cuts and various trying to keep things under in the budget range, and then of course we have inflation costs, we have cost of living costs, we have energy costs, we have transportation costs increase, and other things. New carbon tax came in on August 1st, so all the items have added up to increase. Last year we had 11 repairs for our, this year for the mower, it finally arrived, 9 months Voda through. We'll have that, so let's see what else.
That mower is back in the shop.
Yeah, so they delivered it
No,
yesterday.
but it's back in town now.
It went back. The new one or the used one?
Don't work.
Everywhere.
In order.
Well, they'll test it before they bring it out.
And that works, because I was here yesterday and.
It's brand new, it's like it just got it off.
So was a new Mary. Don't work.
We won't go there.
That's new. They didn't tell me that. Yes. So he
It'll be out back on yours.
he didn't take the used one in to get the chain and
Yeah.
other things?
Yeah,
Oh, he
in
did.
the first trip.
Okay. Okay. That's nice to know. Anyways, so insurance premiums, we're protecting them, so I did include that. You guys discuss alternating every second year for dust control, so we'll just do a wedding program. Won't do dust control this. Chemicals, sure, so I budgeted that, so it was. And then we, of course, the big increase to our budget this year is the cost sharing agreement, which we were forced to enter into from last year. So that's $40,000 impact. Funding goes, I mean, we've already been through the MSI grants, the list that we talked about for the hall. Because I presented that for all the capital programs. And so, you know, if you guys want to go through it again, we can go through it again, but basically the big item to note is the Summer Village has received notification that from municipal affairs that we need to spend the 297. So if you take the 297 and minus the 32,500 for the new mower, then that's how much you have to spend. So in the capital budget, I've given you the list of items you guys have been discussing, and then based on feedback from the community, you guys have to decide what to do to spend that money. And you've got other money to spend, another $50,000 side comes in this year.
So we're. The could be in a week or so here, and then we can.
I just got an
Well,
email back from Graham, because I was out of been ready for a wildfire to find. I will get a report to you today. It doesn't get delayed further, should have.
we'll have it by the end of the meeting. later this afternoon.
Yeah,
Still, I've listed all of the projects in the next budget, the capital budget. The community, different priorities, then we can just shuffle them. We can do a final approval of the capital budget. After, got all this funds to spend, that's not part of our, so.
Couldn't very well, depends on the survey, it could include like. And. Whatever the hall
yeah,
is gonna be, and
Well-
that's a good chunk.
everything's expensive, right? Everything's $20,000 or $40,000. I mean, this is.
And there's the
You can
delay.
$1,000 in a heartbeat, really, these days with stuff. Everything's expensive.
Maybe. Builders come in for the new subdivision, if we need something that's done, that would be a good time to.
Get them to do an addendum or an add-on
Yeah.
project. Yeah, not a bad
I
idea.
thought, I don't know what company.
So the engineers will have our spec. The front street widening for that, they treated together a proposal. And she's also given us our community drainage, the areas that haven't been covered with the developments. Community drainage in place, we'll have the front in place. Guys want to add, we can look at tendering that out or offering that to a local builder or to whatever you would like to do as council. So the big requisition changes, Alberta School Foundation went up from 288,519 2022 to 299,711. And there's also going to be an increase in the final quarter, which is next year's first quarter. And I did include that increase, which is an extra in our budget. So so that is included position. Stettler Housing, of course, went up. County of Stettler Waste Management Authority increased included, as well as the County of Stettler Road cost sharing agreement was included. Other areas that increases, we don't know what the fire service agreement is going to look like going forward, but I think we're okay, stable price wise this year. But next year, we don't know. Like if the county doesn't get back to the table with the town, we're looking at increases based on assessment, I guess.
Yeah,
So
it's. Not looking too good.
anyways, the Stettler Waste Management, we already know about, Stettler Emergency Management, program, there's a levy there, it was an extra $8,000 that we didn't previously get because they didn't send invoices out last year. Stettler County Fund, we have to pay on behalf of the rec board if they decide to go down that route for the Rec and Hall Society. So I didn't put the full amount in, but I put to make sure we had some funds in there for that. Shirley McMullen Water Commission water line, we still have our annual payments, but I don't foresee any additional costs there at this point. They haven't mentioned anything for us.
There will be about $11 million that's accepted from Grossman and
Okay.
Ball.
Yeah.
Then there will be a debenture on that of 10%.
But do we have to pick up our share of that debenture
Yeah,
as a commission member? So
yeah, just our percentage of water allocation, so it won't be huge, but because there's 14 other municipalities.
so is it based on volume of water? But how do they know in our that's
No, we heard. By law, that stays the way.
okay.
So I think 1.7%, something in there.
Okay, so it's not based on volume.
Well, it originally was set. So what we, ours in the beginning was just about the same as Castor, which was 280,000 cubes
Mhm.
a year. A consultant to do it, and it came down to, I think 78,000.
So, but we don't actually get volume statistics, right?
You know, the only people that would are the ones that have a metering system into the infrastructure.
Okay, so,
If it's a truck bill, no.
okay, so if county resident use our truck fill, does that go against our truck fill volume or no?
No, we're just, our base is on the percentage, that isn't gonna change.
Okay, good. So I still put a little bit in as an increase, but not significant on the operating side. We do have our debenture payments, that's the main thing. Parkland Regional Subdivision Authority, we have $900 part of that. On this. They manage out of regional. And including all the other. Have a professional board training program and stuff that they have to be certified. And for assessments, we went with the capital region. Which is, I think, $600 or something. And then we. A cost per appeal, if there is an appeal, we have to pay someone to represent. In the appeal process, if there's an assessment.
Yeah, we
Generally,
haven't had one for a
no,
long.
he's pretty flexible, so if somebody complains to him and they have a logical reason why their assessment shouldn't have increased or. Should be lower, then he's willing to listen and make adjustments before it gets to appeal.
Yeah.
So as long as our OS value continues to go up, I'm too concerned. His fees reflect that, we're not paying a lot for an assessor. Because he does such a wide range of other communities. Okay, so then the other one is Parkland Community Planning. We don't use their services fully, but we do use their service systems, so we have some costs going towards this year. And then planning and development services that we. Which is Leon's company, so.
There's no line.
Yeah, so I think this, did I misspell that?
Yeah, you did.
It's GR, oh,
A.
no way, no Y, yeah, okay. I'll adjust that, so, okay,
So just. So the. Dog. Gonna be the, town manager, the town of Stetler. And,
so she's ramping up hiring for her company.
yeah, she's gonna keep the Gray Corps. And then, Angela Storman, out of Stetler, is going to do our work. Yeah,
Right
and
now.
then after she'll take over a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And it's a good, you know, speaking of them RV deals, that one that we talked about,
Mhm.
then
Oh, yeah,
she couldn't get a clear understanding of the threads of emails that was going back and forth, so she just,
yeah.
what I said got canceled.
Okay.
And so it's gonna just,
She now understands, yeah,
yeah, I think so.
we got, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
this is your last go.
Yeah, so then pay out the 300 for last year that is needed,
Mhm.
and then 600 going on.
Mhm.
And can we adjust that land use bylaw and get the ones that are no longer?
So I have it now,
Okay.
so I just need to convert it up on the website now.
We need to convert it to a schedule, so that
Yeah,
the
it's
schedule will be
easier.
adjusted
Yeah.
without changing the whole bylaw.
You're right.
So we'll talk to Leanne about getting that done, because right now you need 3 readings of a bylaw, where if it's an
Right.
amended schedule, then it just needs one reading to amend the schedule. So that's those 16 trailers that are grandfathered in or 16.
Coming off.
Yeah, it's. In case the property changes and someone reads the land use bylaw, then
Yeah.
food,
I
right?
just had a. I briefly used them.
So I'll work with Leanne to get it created into a schedule and you guys can give 3 readings on that bylaw. And once it's. Yeah. Budget is there was the 16 properties in ranch,
Oh, yeah.
estates subdivision. So I included that in as, 'cause we have to create a rebate for them on their taxes for this year. So that is. Charts, where our money's going, council legislative 3%, administrative 26%. Shared offices you have with Roshan's hands and the assessors 2%. Municipal election this year, I'm hoping there won't be, but in previous, we've had another election last year. So municipal purposes, and that includes all the county programs that we're involved with, primarily the emergency and fire services, etc. Transportation is 27%, so that's a big chunk of our budget. And of course, with the road allocation, it's actually going to be higher. So I have to adjust the table again now that we've officially signed the contract. But I'll do that before we send it out to the public. And if we do a posting in a newsletter for everybody, then we'll adjust that and put that in the allocation. Shirley McClellan's 1%. Our Stetler Waste Management is 4%. Of course, that's going up significantly, so it's going to end up changing the percentage. The subdivision development costs are 7%, and Parks and Recreation is primarily grass cutting maintenance and beach maintenance is 13%. So I'm hoping to adjust the transportation because I've taken a few items out of capital. Because we capitalized some things, like we used the SIP grant for the gravel and the dust control last year, so that won't be SIP grant this year. We'll have to come out of operations
It's
next
gone,
year.
so.
I'll have to take that out. So as far as revenue, where does revenue come from? We don't have a lot of commercial. We generate a tiny bit of administrative revenue. We don't have any campgrounds or anything, so we can't generate money that way. We do get a tiny bit from protective services grant. We do get municipal taxes, and that's the majority. We do get some planning and development revenue, which kind of offsets the subdivision revenue from that, RV permits, and we do get the other permits, which I'll break out into a different part of the pie, which is our boat and dock and mooring. It's still a small amount. It's probably about 1%, but I'll put it in here. So boats and docks, very small. Anyways, so those are your pie charts, and so right now, as far as the main projects that were discussed prior, and I've listed in the capital budget, we talked about if we're going to go ahead with the community hall, we'll need to do engineering and blueprints, whether we expand it or whether we do standalone. So we'll have to do that. Remote launch, I think, should be or will be one of the numbers. That's not really usual. And we need network storage and insulation, but that in the capital budget, it breaks it down much more detailed.
So Joe McCullough had one of his guys put on a hip waiter. And was 100 feet and it wasn't 3 feet yet.
Well, that's why it has to be done.
So it looks, because the lake is so low that there may not, even if it was repaired temporarily, we may not have it open. You know, those last years, the pads only go just a little past that.
Oh, it's really low. I went there and looked at it the other day and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's 13 and a half inches below full right now.
Yeah,
And that's quite a bit of water.
so we need approval to put the barrier out and dig. We can
That's
have
still not gonna
deep
cure
enough
you.
area, either that or we go with
You
the.
need water on to make it work, the inland
We need
option.
the inland option, so we gotta look at those options. We're gonna need to have it engineered, we're gonna have to, it's not gonna be a simple project.
Like just digging it out, it's gonna fill back in.
Yeah, it's-
Well, I mean, you're exposing yourself to prevailing. Just roll back in
If
again next year.
you take it out, it just fills in. Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, the county has that little inland marina, but it's and boat launch, but. That might be an option, we have to look at all options, because why spend? If we have to rebuild the whole thing, it's gonna cost us $250,000 to $300,000 if we get it properly engineered and get provincial and federal approval, just to fix our current ones and put in bigger pads. And if it's only feet out there. And that's $302 an inland type marina, just and build up the shoreline and try to get a breakwater put in. To prevent that from washing in like the county does, and then we'll have something that will never, they'll always have the. It'll just be a matter of every year we'll have to clear out that channel to make sure that doesn't wash in.
Yeah, that's the ones on Gull Lake, they them quite often. I don't think it's every year.
Well, they're dredging, the county's dredging that one this year.
Yeah, they're gonna take some of that.
There's different dredging mechanisms. If it's mainly sand based with a little bit of rock, they have a like turf, and then they have a pumping system, and they just put the material onto the shore or put it along the shore. Sand, right? And they don't pick up anything big, and the agitating can't be done during the spawning season, but it can be done from July 1st right till Christmas.
Yeah, there's another probably 10 or 12 docks in there. So they'd be two-sided. And then that part is good, basin, it's just the way the boat ramps go.
It turns from you.
You go straight down, and there's no parking.
And we do have somebody who just was hired by the county who has expertise in lake docks and boat launch from Sylvan Lake and the Shuswaps. So he has significant experience, and if we partner with the county, they know they've got to do something, because if they're going to do any development permit approvals in the region, they've got to help us, and they're willing to help us and spend some money. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to us and a grant and using our grant funds to do the project. And then it's not like we can charge a levy. So if the county's willing to help us with the development, the parking lots, all that other stuff, and buy the land adjacent, then they're willing to share in the process, then we can do it for the region, for the community. Something that's long-term, so we don't have to be dealing with it in 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's all
With the
a
lake.
positive thing. Collaborate, I know that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, if
Yes, go to the
it
next.
doesn't fall off us. Like I'm.
You have water.
Yeah.
You have water.
I can,
Is anybody in the government, or should we be lobbying the government? fill this thing back up?
They put another.
No, they can't, but the Lake Management Committee has discussed that. They've been told that by fisheries, because transportation is responsible for that building. Fisheries and Wildlife said no, they won't allow them until they can find a proper filtration system for the carp that will prevent any accidental putting carp in our lake. And until there's carp in our lake that are noted by Fish and Wildlife, they won't allow them to do that. So it's one government agency putting the brakes on the other. So they have looked at multiple mechanisms, based system, the filtration system. And they could look at, reverse osmosis. There's a number of things they call water, because it goes into Alex Lake, goes into Mere, and then comes to ours. But there's no control mechanisms in place to change the filtration systems from the pumps, that won't guarantee that something won't get into the system, whether it's fish eggs or whatever. So right now, they're not making any movement on it because of the election coming up, and it most likely won't happen in the next 3 to 4 years.
And I guess the other thing, I was at the stabilization for Gull Lake, and they're in the same boat, because Blind Man River is just full of them.
Yeah.
Carp. So we were there for a presentation, and you had them filters from California,
Yeah,
and they were like, we squeezed eggs out of the carp that the Filipinos were fishing down below there. And we got some fish from them and squeezed out the eggs. And when it went through that filter, the water was pure. And then when it backwashed, all that stuff came out. So basically, it's a filter system that they use in California because they don't spray anymore with fields. They use the drip system. So this filter system, the drip system clogging up.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it's.
so old municipal water systems, the water treatment plant types, ability to do that. They have a backwash system, so nothing gets through the system, and they run dual containment. All the system gets filtered, and when they're done, it gets back through pressure back into the river. No chance, you don't have to change those filters very often. Don't shut down the valves. You take all the material out, the strata, and then you put new strata material in, close it all back up, and then start it again. So there's no chance of fish or any eggs or anything going through the system. So that's what I don't understand. If running the pumps, it's just a matter of one for allowing other fish into. So they put the brakes on that.
The price of power is another big issue, because they take it from Highway 11 down to the river, and it's cut off right now. They just have an ordinary power system like you would for a house down at the plant there. But if they activate that system, it's extremely expensive. And last time they ran it, I think it was around $500,000.
Yeah.
Per year.
For power, yeah, for 1 year.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
in Gull Lake,
Yeah.
that the government was paying the communities around where theirs was running, they had money for it, damn expensive. Last year. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Well, you'd have, I suspect those pumps would have to be totally overhauled too, because they have run those things in.
They turn them every month, they go down.
Well, they make sure they work.
They turn them by hand, they don't fire them up because they don't have the power. Environment and protected areas goes down there and turns turbines. There's 2 pumps.
No, that's 12 months. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so I will adjust the amount, so because originally the levy was set at 3% when I did this budget, so we adjusted the 4, so I have to change the column.
Sure.
3% 4, so basically the average difference for, say, a $300,000 home. Annual difference would be $893. And from 835, so it'd be 57, so it's gonna be slightly larger. And then divided by 12 months, it's gonna be $400.80. $81.
$4.
$100, it's only $400 a month. No, so I will make the adjustment here, so, for a $300,000. It's gonna be about 62 annually, so it'll be. $5 a month, so, but that doesn't include your county road allowance.
Right, so
$9.20 per property, which everybody has to pay based on that. So that's gonna be,
this muni system, to change it from 3 to 4, is it just a button?
Oh, easy.
we have to go in numbers in. And then so we,
Is it automatic?
oh, it does, once we check the numbers, test them in the sandbox. Triple check them in the sandbox, and then take those of them in the main system. But we have a sandbox, so we can adjust the numbers over and over, but no, I wish it was that simple. I really do, but it's not, so we've got it each, like that, this is the, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is the sandbox table that we have to. It generated for us, but we have to put each mill rate in each category of each tax, and then we have the flat rate, mill rate, and then for each one, so then when it does its rollout of the funds that are going to be taken from each category, then I compare that against the assessment and a mill rate spreadsheet, and they should be really close, and if they're not, well, we got to investigate why they're not. So, and so it takes time to investigate.
Took us all morning yesterday.
Just the balance. And then we get a break. So there's Muni 2 code, which is the $40,000 from the county, and then we get a Muni 1 code, we get our industrial code, we get our Fairview School Division code, and it breaks down by each, whether it's residential, vacant residential, or whether it's linear, and then we get another one from Muni 1 and seniors housing, and then we get a total housing. So that's basically, that's done in the sandbox, so we've been playing with the sandbox, trying to make sure everything balances properly. And then once everything, if you pass the bylaw, then we'll go through it again and make sure everything is being charged properly for every property.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just simple, just pushing 4% and just,
Well, that's some of the stuff that wasn't explained,
oh yeah.
got the system, right?
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Well, this is the actual budget that you've seen a number of times, so. It's got the breakdown and. The future for. I didn't. Ditch into the future years, but. I'm gonna. Based on what you all hand enter future. As this, if you want to go to the revenue, bottom of revenues. So the biggest revenue that we are getting is the tax revenue. Just go up a little higher, no, the other way.
Oh, that way.
Okay, so we've got so obviously the biggest amount that we're generating, it's not that you're paying as taxpayer, goes to municipal, and then the combined municipal is the levy, which is basically the 40,000. And then the actual budget itself is the overall municipal budget. At 4%, and then the school levy is the combination of the residential and the non-residential is commercial, so we don't have a commercial property anymore, so it's just the ATCO, Apex, and Telus. And then so the rest of the revenue is for the taxes that are generated for seniors housing. And then this year, we don't have to remit the designated, which is ATCO, Apex, and Tel levy that the province has levied. Because we're under $1,000, we're gonna remit it this year. Basically told us we, so I just left it in there for the calculation. So I tried to keep the budget as close to last year's as possible, last year's apples. So so if you look at the actual, which is the second column, third column, I really tried to cut where I could, and because we had some staff changes, I've cut out of those departments. I've cut a few things that we are not doing for operations to try to bring our expenses down so our revenues can stay the same. So we don't have to charge more overall. The big item, the reason we had to pull out of our reserves last year in order to pay for certain things. So like we had SIP reserves, so we had to pull out of reserves, so that became a revenue. We had to pull out of a number of other areas to pay for programs. So and that's mainly transportation side. So that's why I try to keep it under that amount. The expenses.
All the way, like the main.
So that's, no, just go up to, so if you look at the over, there was a in council expenses for travel and for, you guys passed a motion for the mayor to get a different rate than the other councillors, so that is primarily the main adjustment. So let's go down to, so as far as the administration goes, across the board, we tried to keep costs, I've even kept costs lower in some areas. If we try to find weird places to cut, but because you're doing a sharing agreement, there's not say. So if you go down to the next, that's another area that Roshan Sand. We postage that you use, we split based on actual paper, we split the actual lease, so of equipment, and so try to keep costs stable there. The assessor's fees, you know, there's some so overall municipal protective services, there was really no increase there overall, or very little increase. So so that's if you got any questions about protective services, to the emergency services, which we budgeted 5,000 in last year, so but the expense from last year. So let's go down to the next one, transportation. So here is pull this up. I can't really read from there much.
That one for fire protection, that's per property. Residential property. $100 a year. Right, yeah. So we don't know what's gonna happen there.
So going forward, that's what I'm concerned about is the fire agreement, I just don't know how it takes over with to store a piece of equipment in this hall, or whether they're gonna build a new hall, and how much I have to pay as a member of the fire action. We'll be paying a fire protection fee and thing, that it's gonna go up, I just. They don't even know.
Well, the counties. Yeah, no, but like it's hard with the equipment and. Firehouse instead, because a lot of that was 50-50. But for example, they split, then the county doesn't need a ladder truck. And the town relies a lot on systems through the hydrants. Except the whole town is a proper system, and that there's places in town where the fire hydrants aren't enough for fire protection. They have to maybe upgrade some of that, and also the tender trucks that haul the water. The town may they may need some of that for a while, but I don't know. The county is more rural and residents and call it. What's the county, the stuff that happens in the county 7% of the calls, and the in-town is the rest.
And from my experience working with a lot of different municipalities and working with joint fire departments, it's always better for, even though the county thinks they're paying a lot of money for trucks and equipment, they don't have. Fire chief, they don't have to fire halls, they. Trucks and all that stuff, and they just focus on, getting rapid attack training and stuff, so. It's always better to be a joint fire department, if it's better financially and it's better training, etc. So that's what I'm gonna work. So at this point, I don't know.
We have an interim fire commander, I guess, or chief, whatever you want, just to help out to open Denalda again. Because it's operational, because there's enough people, but at this point they have 22. So they want to make sure that they can get that well stocked again, because the building is empty, it's all empty. So there would be a department up there, so that means that it would be as close as Stettler pretty well.
So does the county, are they planning, do you think, I mean, I guess they don't know yet, having a number of different halls, because
Yeah,
Denalda's is pretty far north.
so they got the Big Valley, and then they would have to consider down the road building another fire hall in the county, so that's been brought up too. And whether it be in, I guess some of the problem would be with Denalda. Denalda is kind of a bedroom community, so a lot of the people during the day are at different, they could be in Stettler or Canberra.
There's not much work in the office.
So that's kind of something that I brought up. It's, you get who you get. Sometimes the firefighters that in the trunk of their car, or else in the box in the back of the truck, they have all their gear, so they can just go directly to the site without having to go to. If there was 2 fire departments, they would of course one another if they were.
Well, I guess whatever happens is go along with it.
I could see that total going huge.
Under transportation, I don't know what to tell you, I mean, it's.
You can't, there's no,
Yeah.
timeline is probably 18 months.
Transportation, I kept the budget the same as the pre-budget. Include the $40,000 for the county collection. Some other areas, and I included in contracted services in case use contractors instead of having a wage benefit. Between the codes, but the
Did you-
budget,
Did you read that letter I sent everybody about contracted employment and the difference
yeah,
Melissa dug up? So that's why.
Mhm.
there's, I actually are breaking out the power for the water. We don't pay for the power at the water, but we had a higher budget before, but I went with the actual budget, actual expense from this year when we broke it out, when we coded the expense. There's been a reduction in the overall water supply. Most of that, anyways, that's our. So, I mean, I just went with the actual security, unless there's something else that is gonna happen, so. I don't know what's happening on future debt and payment.
Yeah, we've paid off.
Know how many years we have left.
30, so probably. I don't know. We're built later, so that brings it farther.
Yeah,
But we paid off the Big Valley and to Denalda, I think.
if we can, if the province will allow us to use our MSI capital funds and pay down the debenture with those funds, or then maybe we can get rid of our extra payments, I don't know. Or we
You're
keep them as they are.
not allowed to do it unless there's an interest change. Negotiate for capital finance,
Okay,
and that's the time you can pay off the
because
debenture.
we do have some of that surplus funds that set aside and it's in our cash account that we never had to spend towards the allocation, right? For Shirley McCollum.
So I'll probably be able to check and see. And involve. Hope they are, because the money's been allocated from the prevent. To the mission, I can see.
Find that out. The requisite. 190 to $28,043. So that increased our budget from 19,000 last year to 31,000 this year. So that's, one of the bigger jumps in expenses. Subdivision development expenses, we won't have the land use bylaw as large that's one of the areas we had to dip into our reserve to pay that. Budget anticipate any large expense. But as far as advertising and miscellaneous engineering expenses, I don't anticipate them being any more than.
So What about the plan for the new revenue?
But that's on the development side, once it happens, then it will bring in, income side, but it'll also bring. As they for that,
But
land use bylaw and a few other things.
right, but my great car still has to do the work
They
towards
have
it,
to do the
right?
work, and then we have to bill the developer, or they have to pay the expenses to get that. Plan, we just have to adjust our bylaw. I put some money in. A significant amount, so. If there's some. Stayed the same. It is, the problem in the parks. So. I did reduce, I left the budget the same for general goods and services because we don't know what they are yet. But last year we spent $8,100 on general goods and services, so I reduced the actual last year, and we spent 3,100, so I just left the budget as is. Council can decide what they want to do with those. So the total parks budget last year, because we had to take money out of reserve to make some payments, that was 16,000 at the end of the year, ended up 99,000 at year end. And this year I budgeted 71, and that covers off some of the other items that the biggest one would be the trail maintenance. I put a little bit more money in trail maintenance. It's going to be wages. We're not going to hire contractors or anything. So that's your cultural expense. This is a multi-purpose building. Is this building itself? We have to decide. I did put some money in for the there's parkland member go into the recreation board where whether we're gonna pay that for them to be part of it so we can access the funds. Because ultimately, whatever money they get for building improvement or programs or whatever, that benefits the community. But if we make them spend all their money on the membership, then any other money to do another
That is per capita, right?
per capita.
And I was just thinking about that as well. Somehow the county's got us pegged at one. Are you gonna, is that, if that mistake isn't recognized?
Yeah, we have to correct that mistake.
That'll carry through, because what was the join the rec board at 120, it was still. I can't remember what
$1,000.
it was expensive. It might
It
have-
was 6,800, I think, previously.
So that could turn into a huge. Unless we get some understanding
Number
of
adjusted.
this.
Yeah, because otherwise, you pay that to get into the program, and it's not an annual.
Yeah, it's just a
To
beginning.
get in, if you don't do that, then you can't access their grant program. Close to $20,000, they're getting a boiler system for their heating, they're getting, they're looking at a Generac, they're paying for part of the tennis court. $10,000 towards that, and so the money that's being generated through the per capita grant program that they access from the permit. Is being redistributed. Willingness to have events and projects and. Who is welcome to attend the events. And if we have a hall, that money will go towards significant amount of operating and capital expenses for the hall. But if we join now, we don't have a significant amount of operating expenses for this hall. Unless we expand it, so to decide at the end of the day. Okay. So the contingency on the transport reserve, I didn't have anything in there. The non-municipal requisitions are listed as the school foundation and the seniors housing foundation. Those are the. And then your amortization expenses, which at the end of the day, you're going to have to pay off the amortization, whether you use reserves or whether you use previous surpluses. And it's just an accounting expense. As your assets depreciate, you have to write them down every year. So like this building, if it's depreciated over 20 years or 30 years, every year you have to pay 1/30 as depreciation. So the biggest depreciation we have is your common services, your transportation, which is your road infrastructure, your drainage amortization expenses, your water amortization expenses, and your parks and rec amortization expenses. So that gets written down every year against your financial statement. So he did explain that to us, to the audit. Yeah. Well, that's it for operating. And the next one is just the capital grants and budget. So it's more or less listing the chief sources that we get the money from. So we get the money from MSI. Capital was primarily $1,000 a year. Community, the gas tax fund, we get $16,000 per, which is getting 8, I think, and now they've doubled it to 16. So, and then municipal reserve, we have unspent capital from previous grants we've been awarded, and municipal reserve from unspent operating. And so if we need to do a project, just gotta let Lori know, and if we can use municipal reserves and MSI capital together to finish a project off, go back to the taxpayer, it comes reserved in our account. So, and then the other tax kind of avoid that. In our bank account, we have funds, and we have Canada Building Funds and gas tax funds still sitting in there as restricted funds. And we do have from Water for Life money that was added to us and given to us in the check that's never been spent as well. So
How much is in?
well, I think the breakdown, we gave you the breakdown previously, but it's in the sheet further on. So the public have proposed several projects for renovation. One was expansion or renovations of the existing hall. Number 2 is repairs to the boat area. Allocation of the garbage waste station proposed to be relocation this year. They put in previous budgets, but it never just walking trails from on Rainbow Lawn, construction of new option, long-term option. For the advances we can get, it's going to be determined based on that. The old garage, exercise space, meet room next door. Basically, that would involve cutting a hole in that door and fixing it so it's usable inside for bedroom of the hall space. It could be used in the future for storing a water truck, for example. And then the new community. So. Ongoing projects are- Obviously, I've listed the three biggest ones, and then we can look at the sources of the funds, but until council decides. Community hall in the village center. Moving the garbage. The lunch upgrade and the boat launch, and then. That we're gonna do this year, or to the new. Lighting, the community hall, the shop building. Each plan, so Alterra has provided, it's gonna provide. So I'm getting that done. I've looked. at The LiDAR data. Drainage data for the engineer, then they only have to pay points. And then a reservoir. Water lines, so if we study, we might as well. The cost is not gonna be. Or very little. That's based, and then the other items that we have to do and spend some is the provincial rec lease and shoreline management plan. And I talked to Leanne about, she might not be able to do it now that she's going to become the CIO, about their company taking on some of those planning activities. So help the plan at a certain point, but then the planner can assist, and then we have to negotiate with the province on them to make convenience or variances in for storage.
So is, with this right now, is the. They don't basically write the whole thing.
Management plan and the dog moors and piers plan, and then they basically comment on it and then write the lease based on what we put in those plans. So if we want to designate areas of storage areas or just let people store on the MR, then that's okay, as long as it's in the plan and they approve it, and whatever's in the plan, then we have to be responsible to enforce that in the future.
We talked to Leanne, but she might not have time now, so, but she's got.
Yeah, I talked to Leanne about doing all three plans, like for all three, well, the park and for the two communities.
But we can also use Parkland community plan.
Their pricing, the minimum price is $150 an hour, and I've also sent it out to the NEAT program, because they have a planning program and they have students.
Right.
They'll take it on as a project, and also the University of Calgary has a ecological design on as a student burden, so we can pay them to do it, but those are we've got a sample plan from previous shoreline management plan, and so should have someone else write something as well, because at the end of the day, whatever we put in our plans, that's what they're going to hold us to for our lease for the long term, and there'll be a minimum probably 20-year plan unless we do a economic long-term development plan, and then it could be up to 25 to 40 years. depending on what they want.
So. I mean, we need to get at this, I guess, right? Fairly soon.
We've started down the road, but I mean,
Yeah, we gotta push this forward a bit, so we have to choose somebody to do this thing, right?
well, I mean, you have, like Leanne might not be. This news,
It is official now, the town of Stellar has announced it.
so.
It is official.
It's official now.
So unless she's willing to hire some staff to do it and then give us an invoice and. You can see how much she can estimate based on what she thinks it'll cost to do. So,
Okay, so if she doesn't do it, what's our next best option?
I've already sent the requests out to a whole bunch of planners. I know some contract, some not contract. Even parks planners, because it's a lot less than municipal planners. And the cost for so same as a municipal plan, like your land use bylaw was like 7. So, but if we go the Nate Fate route, and I talked to the professor there, and she's willing to sign as a project for like a group project, and then get away with 8 or less. And same with the University of Calgary with their environmental program. I don't think Augustana Camrose has, I'm not sure. I'm aware of. Has a horticulture program. I'm not sure. Professor overseeing a student project, and the students, some of them are mature students, so you can sort of hand pick who you want to do the job.
So then if we get a student to do it, then would we have somebody else review it?
Yeah,
afterwards?
we would have to review
Yeah,
it.
like get a like professional engineer or whatever review it.
Review it. Those are pay them a fee to review, but and then Cody's gonna have to review it as well, right? Whoever he hires for his department, they're gonna have to review our plan and go through it in detail. But if they approve it, then we're accountable for that plan from them. Cody,
Yeah.
Dermiak,
Edmonton.
Yeah, I know, yeah,
well, actually was in Red Deer, but now.
because I've seen him on Zoom, I didn't know where he was at.
Is that from?
Leah.
Oh, yeah, well, Leanne, yeah, we need to get in camera to have the discussions with Leanne,
Yeah.
because we're. Waiting. Go through the last page here, which shows you where your money is sitting right now, the allocations of grants and what we can spend. So the new funding in the last page for new funding, we get $67,000 in new funding this year. We've got $1.8 million in not actual cash, but in money that's been set aside in reserves. But in actual cash, you've got $750,000 in cash and reserves, but accumulated in your MSI capital. We've got a lot of money sitting with the government of Alberta that we've never spent. We've got at the end of this year, we'll have just about $712,000 sitting in MSI capital, and federal gas tax. We've got $163,000 right now, plus this year's amount. And in basic municipal grants, we've got another $18,000 coming this year. And we've got deferred revenue that's been from other grants, operating, which we can use for projects, and public land reserve. So we've got some access to funds that can be spent on projects, but you need to pick them.
So that 300,000 was from 2011 to 2018.
Uh, 2011 to 2018 was 297,000.
Right.
Yeah,
Need two motions, right?
yeah,
A motion to approve the 2023 Summer Village Roche or White sorry, operating budget as presented, and another one for the capital budget. Who wants to do this? One, just for you for both or?
Okay.
so in the last page of the budget, page 6 is the projects that have been mentioned and estimated costs of those projects, but they're not firm costs at this point.
Yeah.
So just so you have it, and we can adjust this at any time, once you guys get.
Sure.
Okay, so now.
You're gonna vote on
Other
Yeah.
items. Doing camera.
Right now,
You guys want to go into camera? or-
Yeah, we can just put, let's go into cameras if they're waiting. And then just put their stuff off and we're done.
Okay, because the only thing we have is Lauren Hennel wants us to clean the trees on 40 Front Street. The shrubs and bushes in front of his driveway that actually belong to us. So he wants to know if we can help out and clean some shrubs and bushes out so he can get access to his property. So that's his request.
This go on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but does he want the whole works?
No, we have to get permission to get on his property and have some money in the budget to spend on it. Where we can hire a contractor to do it. I don't really want to do it with my staff,
No.
because I don't really have a staff.
Well, that's what I was wondering, right?
Yeah, that mulch guy on the Helkirk, maybe, but
Yeah, whatever.
are you moving to camera?
yeah.
Okay, so then the other two items, like we can get back to the bylaw after we have our meeting with Lan.
Okay.
So we're moving to camera. Or, but you have to leave right now.
Because we have the necessity some new developers. And then
Alright. I'm at a camera at 1:10. Who was the one that makes that motion?
I will.
okay, back to the agenda. So did we deal with this fellows of 40 Front Street? Are we gonna help them out?
Well, it looks. And you know, he's 80 some.
I know, so you wanna, I could assign, I could contract it, assign staff, but you wanna.
Well, I don't think. So.
Do you know what it looks like? Did you look?
But it's just. Very narrow pathway and it's basically a bunch of brush that needs to be cut down with the chainsaw or whatever.
But it has to be done properly, else you're gonna have cars parking on it. Flat tire. All straight down to nothing.
Why don't you just hire a mulcher?
We can either trim it back and just trim it to the base so it looks like a shapely tree, but not cut it all the way down to the base. Just trim it back, have our staff go in with cutters and snippers and trim it all back.
Well, try that, see if he's happy with it.
Yeah, let's try that first. Sure. Sure, that sounds,
That's what you want to do, that's what we'll do.
yeah, let's do that first.
So we're gonna have a motion of that
We're gonna have
to.
Do you want me to phone?
Parks and Public Works trim back the trees from
And see
40
exactly like.
Front Street.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be bad if Chrissy called just to know that we're going to.
I did. Yeah.
Who wants to put their
So-
motion again? Was that?
40
again?
Front.
Does he want it all out of there or does
No,
he just wants it trimmed?
he wants it trimmed back so he actually drive it up.
I think the issue was when he's back out of his driveway, that if
See?
some car comes ripping by or something, he's gonna get clipped.
Provide proper sight lines for backing out of
Oh, I know.
the drive. driveway at 40 Front Street.
I think so, just see what he wants, but I think we just turn it back so that he can, like, it's not dangerous when he's backing out of his driveway. I think I think he'd be happy with that, wouldn't he?
We've got a lot of blind spots in there that are our trees on MR. Okay, that's good.
Okay,
That's right, file.
what do we have here now? You did all the financials.
Yeah, 9.2.
What about council reports?
We did skip that, all right.
So we did we do the
No, we
9 point, the text bylaw?
No, we didn't do the reports, we just skipped.
Oh,
the-
okay.
Yes, with that.
Okay. Is that your report?
Okay.
For the house authority, they've still got, this was a month ago, had 57 vacancies within the properties,
57.
57. But they've got a lot more people, this month, on the thing, and like, quite a few more, but there were still a lot. And they're considering lowering the age to 45 instead of 60.
Oh,
Another source, it's for
Good revenue.
interns,
I've got a quick one now. The Hall Society wants us just to make sure that barbecue is working out there
Yeah,
for Canada Day, so we just need to go, I told them that we would go and fire it up, and Lord said it's being fixed up by a plumber or a pipe fitter guy or whatever, so if we can just find a time for us to just go there, Radwin for Canada Day and make the burgers or whatever, you know,
yeah.
so. we-
I don't know about after this meeting, but
No, but even tomorrow or something, you gotta have to have some lunch or something, maybe tonight or tomorrow, so let's just pick a time in the next couple of days or. By the end of the weekend or whatever, just to let them know, that. And the thing works or doesn't work, and if it works, great, if it doesn't work, then they have to figure out a rental unit or something for the Canada
well,
Day.
it should work.
well, actually did it. and they
But we just
tested
want,
it.
we just want to make.
Yeah, well, yeah, you just want to.
I just want.
It might be full of mice.
Burn them out. Burn them out.
That's just a little extra flavor. But they just want peace of mind before they're candidate. They don't want to get messed up on Canada Day when they gotta cook 1,000 burgers or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
I know if it came to that, Vortex has a big grill, you can ask them for.
Yeah, we'll just see. Okay, so we'll pick a time.
okay.
Mayor,
So, there.
There were piece of paper.
Along your mouse.
Okay,
all right, my fingers are ready.
Ed had a guy. Gary Levy doing an estimate for a pad out in front of the shop.
Okay,
20 by 30,
Apron,
20 by 30.
20 by 30, and it came in at $5,400.
okay, 5,400, 20 by 30.
Activity.
It's a good idea, and
Well, it gives them a place to wash their equipment off instead of washing the inside, and they get mud and water and.
Yeah,
And then, it's,
well,
when they wash it up, then they out on the gravel, then it turns into mud, and then they're just packing it all into.
Yeah, they gotta go over.
Yeah,
Your waste.
So,
Oh, 100.
Swallow the floor.
and not only that, the apron that's out there, the 6-foot sidewalk, it's from driving in there, it's starting to chip off, so.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Is it, can we get?
we just gotta make sure we tie it in, rebar, tie it into.
yeah, he'll do that. He's professional.
Is it?
What's the name?
Grant money, what? Is it near?
You can send me the call, right? Okay.
Yeah,
And it's grant money, right?
Is that
Yeah.
LIE?
And we can,
LIED.
It'll be that
Is
300,000.
it Garrett?
We can take that out of that 300,000.
yeah,
Yeah,
we can just, I'll just you guys pass a motion, then I can get Lori to apply for
I'll make it.
it.
Okay,
So anyways,
We'll let that.
What's-
I didn't think. I-
all in favor, yeah,
Hold on. No.
I'm just waiting for Smart.
Take the new motion here.
we can start.
Just a ASBA convention in Edmonton,
What's the date on that again?
October,
Albert,
For summer,
summer.
that's it, everything?
Yeah,
and isn't there in the fall?
yeah, it's all,
Like the hotel like next to the airport?
it's not on the weekend, it's a Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
Well, that'd be good, I can go.
So generally,
I'm gonna register, or somebody can register me or whatever.
19th to 20th.
$30 we write that. We write off the tax for that. Because we don't actually, we send them a levy, but we give them a credit because we use that as our payment for the road access allowance. And the linear property, this. If I go- Basically, our goal based on the mill rates were 4% higher than last year. So in this case, it's 0.02968 is the mill rate. Highest generated, so it would generate 322,756 in residential. Non or in residential, which is undeveloped properties, would generate 355. Farmland would only generate $1.88 in tax. And the non-resident generate $379. Other levy would be the flat rate levy of $99 per property. $39,097.60. Have to eat. $30.70. Levy. So if we can get we can do it all today, we can give first, second, and then unanimous, and
You know,
third reading and get it all done with, so.
yeah,
So I just have to. You can come to the office and sign the official copy on legal. Reading.
I will motion.
Okay,
To approve the first reading of tax rate bylaw 19523 as presented.
yeah,
The second reading. That. Unanimously approved to continue on to the third reading of the tax rate bylaw 19523 as presented.
Agreed.
so all.
All
I guess, yeah,
Yes, yes.
okay,
Okay, last reading, third and final reading of the tax rate bylaw, who would like to put their name on it? Here.
okay, so we'll print this out on. Includes that, so we'll analyze the documents to the public, if you guys want to change anything in there. if you want to prioritize any items in the capital side. Based on the letter, then I'll send them out for the public.
Yeah, I don't have it back yet from
Yeah, no,
Graham, but he said today, so. As soon as that arrives, I'll forward it on to everything. And Ed kind of right about because there was a place in there for personal.
comments? Stats that come in, we can publish that newsletter, get the stats, but not. You guys will keep them.
Yeah.
He'll have something that you'll be able to just fire out and I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll just take the stats, put them in a nice format, say, here's the results of the survey, that's what the community asked for. Based on X results, X number of people.
Yeah,
Assistant,
So the last item is sorry. Sarah Kim from Altair, which is now called Aptus, APTUS. So they renamed themselves, rebranded themselves. Anyways, for the stormwater study, she had a couple questions specifically, and Lauren might know some of this. The previous map for the end goal basic. I told her we need a high-level stormwater study for the whole community. But we also need a specific stormwater study for the end of Third Street in Buffalo. So she did some previous quotes, and I thought it was 20,000 for the last time they did a stormwater study. So so she just asked what the volume is going to be when Stephanie changes her structure, what it's going to look. Will it be, and what are we going to put in place to make sure it doesn't flood the neighborhood? That's what it's about as well. And when we start, because we ought to know when we have to change the elevation, we'll have to put a marker in there, because if it does rain, we have certain volume we have to pumping.
yeah, there is a marker there already.
And then the same questions for Earl's Way. She wanted to know because if you have an Earl's Way, we need to look at for our portion of the cost versus the subdivision developer's portion. Because did he build Earl's Way originally, Walter, or was Earl's Way built by Carl? There should be some data in there that he won't have to redo. So she wants to know.
There was no,
Developer should have stormwater management plan for the subdivision as part of their approval, yes, but those 3 new subdivision lots. He didn't have a stormwater management plan.
he didn't do anything for Earl's Way. Partners. They didn't stormwater. It was for Pheasant Terrace, that's all.
Okay, so they didn't, for Earl's Way, they didn't? I thought they were legally required to have. Okay. Sorry about that, because he's saying in order to finish his subdivision, they have to get one in place. They never had one. Okay, so that's the hole that's missing.
And I don't know why. But we had a different.
Okay. So, and do we want them to look at the boat launch repairs as possible alternatives, or do you want to look at have that? And for an engineering, or just want to not do that for now? But we have to have something eventually. So do you want Altair or?
Be eligible. out of the- I think that's.
If you guys want, then I'll just give me,
We're paying for the.
That's what I was just gonna say, like. Yeah, I guess if it's gonna be a use.
I mean, if they're gonna make a plan to go back out the same way,
have to come with some alternatives, because we can't.
but if they wanna make. That in. I'm for it.
Back to us to put together engineers. And then the council can choose, but they wanna know, what's the directives, they'll have to design it and get approvals either way. So are we gonna use them to do it, or do you wanna use the county?
Well, has the county offered to do any of that, or because,
County, if they're gonna do it, we would have to do it, we'd have to pay for it, but we'd have to use the county engineer. Cause they would do the parking lot and everything with the drainage plan, right? Cause they'd have to have a drainage plan to do the parking lot. Cause they'd be working on our land, the right of way and for that. one. So that whole thing through Stantec. So do we wanna do it ourselves or have Stantec
how
and the
much?
county do it?
how much?
Well, that's what I've gotta get a quote from her.
Well, ask her for hope, I mean, that's.
Yeah, and you know, to be honest with you, the Stantec is really gives the. Most reasonable prices these days on the roads,
See,
especially because they've worked so closely with the Shilling McClellan in the very beginning, so if the county asks, then it's a lot better.
yeah,
And
so,
they have they're experienced. If they don't, it's the same thing with that traffic study. If they don't have the people in Red Deer, like that little Lindsay, she came from Edmonton yesterday. That's her days.
so we can ask to partner with them, with the county. For that boat launch and parking lot thing. If you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll call them, but then the other thing is, if we decide not to go down the new community hall route, if that's not the choice of the community. Then we don't really need an engineer for a site assessment study or.
Right.
Cause we'll have to do some. Soil impact studies and a bunch of other stuff. But if we're not gonna go down that route, then we don't need to have them on this. The other thing that they did was the Front Street as a quote before. And have them. The two things that work with. The Front Street lighting. So we got your permission to go ahead on. Motion.
And just in regards to the hall. Remember I said there's Andrew Spatula on. Third or Second Street that was his business and so he was a consultant of some kind, could be an engineer, but he's the guy that would take the plans that and then make them
Blueprint,
so and the code
okay,
and the code.
yeah, I think I got introduced to him, yeah.
Yeah, so he's had a question last week, he come over to the house and you gotta be careful. If you put an addition on the hall, because if you put it on too big, then you gotta have sprinkler system. And that cutoff is around 5,000 square feet. So put it all over 5,000, so.
Well, 30 feet to double this hall space.
So he said you gotta include the old shop, the whole structure, But it was nowhere near 5,000.
So are we hiring Optus?
So we're gonna contract Aptus to look after the stormwater or not stormwater management plan, drainage plan and storm. So we can submit it to Alberta. Department.
And winding
So
up.
they'll provide a quote for that, and the second part, they're gonna
They're
revisit the Front Street widening project.
Yeah.
And
Today.
so that's a separate item, but
They're
we
both
can put
separate?
them both together.
Okay, 'cause
And
it's-
the Front Street widening project to give us a quote for engineering and project management.
He's gonna have a drafted copy email. Okay,
Okay, so from that. Just to see which projects you guys wanted to do. As a priority. And you know about fire ban and you know about the,
Yeah,
All right, I'll move that.
which ones?
Correspondence. Who wants a counselor, mayor, Optus, which is Aldera. All right,
Orange. Yep, so we got.
yeah.
Good.
Now we just gotta let.
adjournment.
the meeting. Unless we
they
go-
were gonna adjourn it. Well, it says.
3.
2 o'clock.
2, 3.
Really?
Yep.